Returning to our top story on border security, Tucson Police Chief Chris Magnus recently weighed in on the issue before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Border Security and Immigration. He testified about stopping the flow of drugs into the U.S. and how the current rhetoric surrounding immigration impacts his department. In our studio this week, we asked Chief Magnus to explain some of the points he raised in Washington. Fair to say that cartel crime has its influence here in this region?
Well, I think the biggest influence is the drugs that are brought through by the cartels. We see less of an influence in terms of, violent crime or property crime. I'm not suggesting there's no activity when it comes to gangs or human trafficking. There almost certainly is some, although we haven't seen a lot of that in Tucson. But the biggest influence that we face, and I think communities throughout the country face as a result of the cartel's activity, are the drugs that they smuggle in. And the thing that's important to understand with that is that very rarely does that involve just something being thrown over a fence or even coming through a tunnel. There's now data from the government itself that suggests that as much as 80% of those drugs are coming through ports of entry. And so I think what I was encouraged to see from talking to people when I was in Washington is that on a bipartisan basis, really, there seems to be an understanding that we really need more resources at the ports of entry.
You specifically mentioned a recent case with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and the arrest of more than 50 people, I think. How common are events like that where you work with other agencies to take down crimes associated with border issues?
Well, I think they're not terribly common, but they're very important, and often they involve significant numbers of weapons or drugs. But it definitely requires a team approach. There is a role for local law enforcement, but again, I think it's important that we say we're not doing immigration enforcement. That's something we leave to the customs and border enforcement people. What we are doing is working cooperatively around things that cause crime in Tucson and that could cause problems for our residents.
And it's fair to say you are concerned about the perception of the community, specifically perhaps the Hispanic community, and how they view officers when they respond to incidents. Do you think you've made some gains in that area and in that trust that you've talked about?
Well, fortunately, that's something that we've been building over many years here. I mean, I think that's critical. Just to deal with any kind of crime in the community, we have to have the trust and confidence of all of our residents, regardless of their documentation status. So we want people, even if they're not in this country legally, to feel comfortable coming and reporting crimes to the police. We want them to work with us to help get those crimes solved, or to even appear in court as a witness or victim if necessary. Because here's the reality of it. The people that are committing those crimes, they're a risk to the entire community, not just one segment of the community. And so it's in our interest as a larger group of Tucson residents to have an environment where people feel comfortable contacting and working with the police, and we want to maintain that trust.
Have you run into instances where people have specifically said, I'm not comfortable because I don't know what you'll do with this information or what other agency you might share it with?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a very real concern for a lot of people. And again, something difficult to measure, but we know that there are people that in some cases have been victims of really serious crimes, of organized thefts, or people who've been victims of domestic violence, other kinds of things, that simply will not come forward because they're afraid of what will happen next. And so I think we're doing better than in many cities, but we're still, their perception spreads quickly and it's hard to fight, especially when people are hearing some of the rhetoric at a national level.
So let's say Tucson police officers are in fact investigating a case where people may in fact have immigration status that is in question. What is the protocol for your department, and do you share that information with other agencies?
So Arizona has a state law that deals with a lot of these issues. It's been modified over time. It started out being known as SB 1070. And it does require that under certain circumstances, police departments are required to make inquiry about immigration status. But it also sets their real parameters as to when you can do that. You can't just ask anybody that question under any circumstances, and there has to be reasonable cause to believe that someone is here in an undocumented status. We have policies in place in our department that clarify those rules even further. When can we make an inquiry about status, and then what do we do next? And it's a fairly involved process.
Tucson Police Department does keep record of its references to Customs and Border Protection cases.
Yes, the answer is we do. We keep detailed records on this, and I can tell you just over the last several months, for example, the number has ranged anywhere from 0 to, I think, 3. It's typically a very small number of cases because there really have to be a whole series of circumstances that are met for us to make those referrals to Border Patrol. So it's very small, and I think it's thought out carefully and then documented carefully.